Hello, everybody. I'm going to be doing my review of Hitler's Circle of Evil, Episode 9, titled The Beginning of the End. And we are now in 1944, where basically, like, everything is a crisis in Germany, in Nazi Germany at this point. Of course, the Nazis are denying that there is a crisis, but privately and secretly, they know that everything's a disaster. Some of Hitler's henchmen in this episode are preparing for post war life, basically without Hitler, and while some of them are staying loyal. Now, just as a little fun fact, I thought I'd discuss Hitler's toothbrush mustache, which I asked ChatGPT what it was about, and it just told me that it's not really sure, that they're not really, historians aren't really sure what that's about, Hitler's mustache, but that it was a popular style of I guess having your mustache in the late 19th century, early 20th century. Um, there's a practical reason because during World War One you had to put on gas masks because the Great War, which was World War One, was very vicious, and they actually banned a lot of things like the use of gas because I guess they even used like flamethrowers during World War One, which they weren't allowed to use in World War Two. And it says he trimmed it down to fit under the gas mask more effectively. It was also a personal choice because even though by the 1920s the toothbrush mustache had fallen out of fashion, Hitler retained it as a part of his image. And it could have also had some influence with pop culture, like he wanted to become, or he wanted to remain like an average Joe in the face of people. Charlie Chaplin also wore it like this. Um, and yeah, those are basically the reasons why. So I thought that was just a little bit interesting. Anyway, back to the review. It's July 1944, and it's been a month since Normandy. I guess in Normandy, this is where the Allies landed in England, I think. And basically, Germany's getting surrounded by everybody. They're bombing Germany's industrial heartland. And Bormann, at this point, they mentioned he's fueling Hitler's paranoia, and he's the gatekeeper of the inner circle. So if anybody wants to talk to Hitler, basically they have to go through Bormann, and they have to be on good terms with Bormann. We left off with Albert Speer almost being murdered. So he's still sick at this point, and he's in charge of supplying Germany with weaponry, something that reminds me of Rome inevitably because that's what he would do. But he got murdered. It's kind of interesting to see like a what if scenario. What if Rome was still around at this point? Would he have been able to be in charge of the industrial aspect of war and the weaponry? By summer 1944, Germany is also running out of fuel. So they're running out of resources, manpower, resources, everything. Goering is out, and he's addicted. He's back to his addiction to morphine. He's living in his estate, actually, and he still thinks that he's gonna be like the leader. He thinks he's number two. He's second in command, and when the war is over, he's gonna be able to be the leader. A lot of these people, like Himmler, think that they're going to be, think that they can still have a life after World War II, where they're like part of the leadership of Germany still, which is not the case. Like Germany got split up, and which I don't know what was worse for Germany, post World War One or post World War Two. That would be interesting to know after which war did Germany suffer more. I imagine after World War Two, because Germany wasn't Germany anymore. It was part of the Allies and the Soviet Union, and it actually became the first battleground kind of for the Cold War, right? Goebbels is struggling to make propaganda here positive with all the bad news. And Himmler is indulging in disloyal thoughts at this point. So I did not remember this part, but there's actually a lot of discontent within the German army. So at this point, they make a separation between the German army and the Nazis, and they say they kind of weren't the same. So the German army, the official army, is discontent. And they're discontent, their generals as well, with the way the war was fought and with the results of the war. So it's basically now an inner fight between the Nazis and the army. And on July 20th, 1944, in East Prussia, there's an SS fortress known as the Wolf's Lair, which could only be reached by railway, where Hitler's basically running the war. and there's an explosion. There's a bomb and an attempt to kill Hitler, a third attempt. So I guess I remember there was an attempt also at some beer hall that he was giving some speech and he left like 13 minutes early, and then the bomb exploded, which I guess was kind of orchestrated by British intelligence services or by the Shah. I don't remember that one. I didn't know there was a third because I didn't know there was a second, but this is the third one. Hitler survives again, so I'm kind of like, why is Hitler surviving all these assassination attempts? And right away, it becomes a rat's nest, they say, within the Nazi organization. They say it's an inside job in Berlin. Goebbels is in Berlin, and he receives news of the bomb plot. And since he wants to be a senior political leader, not just minister of propaganda, he starts to target Albert Speer. At this point, he says Speer had a motive, and he has the organization Todt, which are people that are actually in the Wolf's Lair where the bomb exploded. So he could have easily like planted a bomb. And again, they say that Hitler and Speer at this point had like a homoerotic quality. It had a homoerotic quality to the relationship, which again, I think is just like throwing. I mean, there's no evidence for this. So again, I'm going to say like they're just, talking smack at this point about that. Maybe they were just friends. I don't know if there was a homoerotic quality. What's your evidence for that? But anyway, Goebbels interrogates Speer, and this is funny because just as Goebbels and Spears are like discussing the bomb, they see troops outside, and it's a large scale military coup. So at this point, they start to realize that their army is turning against them. So it's Klaus von Stauffenberg, who's a general, and basically it comes from within the plot to take over like Germany in this case from the German army. It's coming from within. Hitler wants revenge, and Stauffenberg basically launches Operation Valkyrie. Now, Operation Valkyrie is basically this takeover of the German army to try to take over Berlin, right? And basically lock down a bunch of cities and take over Germany ultimately. But Goebbels has a telephone connection to Wolf's Lair, and at this point, Himmler leaves to Berlin to try to take charge. And Himmler's investigation here ultimately is to go after Goering because he wants to be second in command, and Goering is second in command even though he's not like actually there, which to me this doesn't really make sense because it's like, why would you have someone named second in command and it's like, where are they, right? Like take them off that position then if they're not here to help. So Goering goes to the Wolf's Lair to see like what's going on. Hitler actually, and it's kind of funny because he receives Mussolini at a tea party, like I think the day this happens. And Hitler, I mean, he has like burns and, he's somewhat hurt, but he doesn't die. And, the German army doesn't know this, so they're like trying to, basically execute their plan. And at this point, they say that Admiral Donitz blames the army and Goering, and that Mussolini's just kind of sitting there playing with his cake while like all of the Nazis are arguing about this bomb plot attempt and the coup attempt. It's kind of crazy. Mussolini there in the middle of it all. And they say that's his last meeting that Hitler has with Mussolini. So at this point, like the army, the people think that Hitler is dead and Speer and Goebbels is locked down, at that building where they were meeting. Himmler tries to cancel the operation, and at this point, Goebbels says Hitler needs to break his 1 year of silence, which I guess Hitler wasn't talking to anybody for like a year, or at least not to the German people. And he needs to mention that he's alive, so he speaks, and as soon as he speaks, the coup is off, just like that. The German people feel saved, which I was like, why would they feel saved? Because they heard their leader's voice, okay? And the plotters and Stauffenberg are shot, right? They say that it was a diverse movement. It had a lot of different people in it, this resistance, because they were basically seeing how everything was going to shit and they wanted to save, what would be left of Germany. These who would have, they're trying to like get ahead. Basically, they're trying to stay like somewhat in power, just in case. So Spear is invited to a meeting. Oh yeah, and then they say that Spear was invited to a meeting at this point, and it's even in Stauffenberg's diary that Spear was part of the plot, but not really, because they have a question mark right to his name, right next to his name, in one of the lists, and it says if possible. So they torture people, they get information, and then they hang them. All of these plotters. And Speer declined the invitation, so they say it was just wishful thinking by the plotters to include Albert Speer as the minister of weaponry, which wouldn't really make sense if he was kind of failing and sick. Why would they want him? Maybe just out of habit, because he was already in charge, so let's just put him in charge just because he's in charge. Okay, then why wouldn't you put Hitler in charge because he's in charge, right? Like, isn't it qualitatively like you're evaluating these people and you're saying Hitler is unfit, so Albert Speer would also be unfit, but okay. So anyway, Speer survives this, and thousands of people are executed, and they're filmed to, like, I guess for Hitler to watch later, or the people to watch. So now we're in July 23rd, 1944, and Hitler gives the green light on Goebbels' total war. So he approves Goebbels' total war, which is basically like, at this point, Goebbels has like kind of complete control of the nation's resources, and they recruit 1.2 million civilians to fight in the war. So everything is basically unleashed. And then we go to Himmler, where they go back to talking about how when he turned 18 at the end of World War I. So his dreams of being military commander or whatever were crushed, but now he gets his chance. And this is kind of funny because Hitler basically tells him that he's responsible for defending like the industrial cities. They make him like a proper soldier, and he basically takes Goering's place. Now remember, Goering is out of the picture. He's in his estate at this point. And here there's a theory which later they say is actually true, where they say that Bormann is the one that persuaded Hitler to give Himmler the job, so Himmler could fail, right? So he could fail Hitler, and Bormann can just be like, yeah, he sucks. And yeah, there's basically like a fight between Speer and Himmler for manpower. Speer wants the people, the manpower for the factories, and Himmler wants them for the army. So Himmler wins this fight, so he gets the people for the army. And Hitler commands that he can, at this point, Hitler is still convinced that he can win the war. But since the bomb attack, he's on drugs. I'm not really sure why he started doing drugs. But they say that he's on all kinds of fun and crazy drugs. And they have one last attempt, which is known by the Allies as the Battle of the Bulge, which is actually in Belgium. So their attempt is to do what they've always done, which is like split the army in two, like kind of like divide and conquer. And it's known as the Ardennes offense also. So the same technique as in 1940. But the problem now is that they don't have the firepower, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the resources, they don't have Goering, right? And, by December 1944, the Germans don't really have fuel. They say that if that offense, the Battle of the Bulge, if they had like resources, if they had the manpower, it could have worked. It would have been a master stroke, maybe just to kind of like, I don't know if to win the war, but maybe to kind of like regain momentum. But it ends in disaster, and they say that Himmler's first attempt at being a military like person ends in a disaster, and he lacks any defense on the Eastern Front as well. So Himmler is failing. They say he's basically he's retreating and he's being defeated, right? And Hitler actually accuses Himmler of disobedience, right? Which is kind of like, what? Like, you got us in this position, but whatever. And I've just gotten in the position, like I've only been here for a little bit. So they say that he becomes number 2 of a vanishing empire, basically. He wants to quit, but he does it like via proxy, and he goes to like a sanitarium to get treated for stomach pains, like Himmler. but then he tries to do an audacious rebrand, they say, where he tries to like come across as like a good Nazi, or he tries to negotiate like surrender, basically. Um, so yeah, again, like he quits, he leaves. But if I would have been Hitler, I'm thinking I would have kept all these people like close by. I would have been like, hey, where are you? I need you here at the bunker. Like, what the hell are you doing in some sanitarium somewhere else plotting? Like I would have kept all those people close. But yeah, Hitler was just kind of, like Goering. Where's Goering? Where's Himmler? Right? Himmler ordered. He basically orders the concentration camps. He had ordered the concentration camps like a couple months back to be closed down, and he starts to destroy evidence with the prisoners inside. So now we're like in early 1945, January 16, 1945, and Hitler and Bormann actually go to Berlin, and they just see like all the destruction, right? And there's something called the Führer bunker, which was designed by Speer, which is in Berlin. It's 18 rooms underground. They say Hitler is on drugs and he's physically bad. He has a bad, shaky, bad left hand after his third assassination attempt. And no one says anything. No one questions him. Everyone wants to keep him happy. And at the sanitarium at Lynchen, Himmler sends a message to the Red Cross, and he uses prisoners, the Jewish people, as a bargaining chip for freedom. And he even wants like a post leadership role and he wants to be known as like the good Nazi, like the Nazi that released prisoners. Just at around this time, the Soviets are actually they reach Auschwitz at this point, I think in Poland. And the Soviets enter it. They see the total inhumanity, right, at the concentration camp. They find 600 sick people there. It was abandoned, basically. And for Speer, this basically ends hope, because in Silesia, which I think was around there, which was supplying coal for the Germans, it can't basically resist. The industry can't resist anymore. So Hitler does something. He signs the Nero Decree, and the Nero Decree is actually like burn everything, right? Like we're going down in flames, right? Like suicidal kind of. And this is Hitler saying that the people have failed and they don't deserve any infrastructure, anything. And I guess this is like a part that is too far for Speer, because they say Speer was an architect. So literally saying like destroy everything that architects build is kind of like what? So he's just like, no. He summons Speer to the bunker, but Speer feels betrayed. And he thinks about like putting like a gas bomb in the air ducts at the Führer bunker that can kill anyone with tabun, which is like a poison. And but the air intakes are removed just in case the Russians planned to do that when they got there. So yeah, uses and they actually say that Speer uses this as a way to persuade the Allies post-war that he actually wanted to, like, again, he was a good Nazi, right? Goebbels, it's the 12th anniversary of his ever since he got named Minister of Propaganda. But the Allies are bombing Berlin with no one stopping them. There's no Luftwaffe. There's no Goering. They're just bombing the hell out of Berlin at this point. And they even bomb the Minister of Propaganda's building. And Goering is like stashing his artwork. He wants the artwork to be displayed at his new, like, as soon as he gets named like the new leader of Germany. And all this artwork is stolen, like from Paris, from France, from different European countries. He sacked the countries from their artwork, I guess. Yeah, so it's just to show you how far gone these people are. Like Goering is talking about, yeah, like I'm gonna save my artwork for when the war is over and I'm leader and I can display my artwork in my new office or my new buildings or whatever. Himmler wants money besides like negotiating his freedom, so he gets like super greedy. He's trying to negotiate surrender with the Allies, I guess. Goebbels is staying loyal. he actually is one of the ones that stays there with Hitler, and like he kills all his family and like kills himself too. And he can't see life without Hitler, so he's Scorpio, loyal to the end. And there's actually a public appearance that Hitler does around this time in Germany, in Berlin. And Bormann wants to go to the mountains in the bunker that he did over there, but I think Hitler stayed in Berlin kind of like as a, I don't know, like as an act of defiance. Like, if I'm going down, I'm going down in the capital. I'm not going down somewhere in the mountains, like hiding. I'm going down in Berlin, and I'm going down my way, right, with by my own hand, like not being shot or hanged or imprisoned by the Allies. So he stays in Berlin. Magda, they say she's also there, which is Goebbels' wife. She's loyal too. And Eva Braun, which was Hitler's mistress, she's also there. So they show this picture of all of them together, and they say at the end only two of these men would survive, which I'm going to show here in this video. And yeah, just basically the episode, it's titled The Beginning of the End. So they show how everything is basically going to shit, how they're losing everything. Yeah, the part for me that kind of like got my attention was, or that is interesting, is how all these people are like basically trying to betray their own cause. I guess the only person that really stayed true to everything was Hitler, of course, Bormann, who was loyal to Hitler, and Goebbels, who was also loyal to Hitler. But like Goering, Himmler, Speer, like all these guys are just like, I think they kind of try to justify Speer. They say, he wasn't going to destroy, with the Nero decree, he wasn't going to destroy all of Germany, or all of Berlin or whatever. So I think they kind of try to make him out to be like not a good guy, but at least not like totally gone, totally irrational. Like they say, yeah, Speer was in disagreement with Hitler. But I still think he wasn't there with him, right? Neither was Goering, neither was Himmler, neither were the other people. Unless you were in the bunker with Hitler, I would say that you were basically disloyal, right? You were betraying the cause that you worked for, looking out for your own interests, like Himmler, where he's basically trying to cut a deal so he can, have his freedom and money and still like maintain a position within like the German state. So yeah, this goes to show how at the end of, like during a fall, like basically everyone betrays everyone and everyone's just out to get their own, right? So I think that's an important lesson. They say, divided we fall, right? That's the expression. So yeah, I just thought I'd get into this. Let me know what you guys think about this episode. And that's all I got for this one. So I'll see you in the next one, all right? Peace.